What's going on, guys? Wade here at 129 Touge. Today we are on the Touge Hour podcast, and today we are going to be talking about hybrid, hydrogen, and electric cars, which is good, which is bad, what we think about them, and what could be the fear factor with all these cars. Joining me today, we have Austin Simons, our local Miata man, Jzilla track days instructor. We have Thomas Couch over there. He's just kind of creeping.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there.
As always.
He's awful quiet.
Always.
Have Doug, the alignment guy, Eurospec LLC. Go check him out. And then we have our local Killboy photographer. We have Dylan Shelburne over there. He's just hanging out. Just taking a sip of Celsius.
Please sponsor us.
Please sponsor us. We need a sponsor.
Come on, Pepsi. I just tried your new stuff.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just dive straight into this with electric cars, okay? Because a lot of people are wanting to push for electric cars. Okay, they want everything to be pretty much thrown away. It's like no gasoline cars, no diesel cars. Like, it's got to be electric or it's nothing. And we live in a time and we live in an era to where, like what happened in Texas, you can't support that just yet.
It sounds like to me you're just going to dive into an electrical fire that you can't put out.
Which brings us to a good point. Right. So, we went to Charlotte Roval. Me and Doug were talking to this prior. When we went, remember what happened. They could not fight electrical fires.
Yep.
So we ended up getting some garages.
We got
some Teslas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we got garage space because there was like 3 Teslas that entered the event and didn't even get to race on their tractor. They got refunded for their money and everything like that because Charlotte literally told them, like, yeah, we don't do electric cars, sorry.
Because of the risk involved.
Yeah, and they don't have the proper equipment to put the fire out.
And a lot of the tracks that we go to or that are in the United States don't have the proper equipment to fight the electrical fires for the electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that Charlotte, being a NASCAR-sanctioned track, would have some necessity to fight that. But then you look at AMP, Tesla Destination.
Yep.
So do they have stuff to actually fight the fire? Or are they like, bring it on, come on.
Yeah,
we'll bury it in a ditch if it catches on fire.
No, I can attest to AMP actually having the equipment to put out battery fires.
That's good.
Bust out the baking soda.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I think the reason that they got denied at Charlotte, like you said, Charlotte being such a recognized track, was like even though they have the credibility, it's not necessary for them to change it because they don't do any sanctioned events that involve it. So.
And that's a good point.
They have the credibility and the sanctions to be able to have the equipment. But
not the necessity.
They don't have the exactly. They don't have the necessity to be able to for them to actually be like, yeah, this is a good idea to get this equipment.
Yeah, your ROI on the equipment, your return on investment of that equipment, it has to be, we're going to spend $3.5 million on all these, different types of equipment and all these services that are going to be able to manage this issue.
The training that it requires.
Yeah, everything involved. Training the whole staff.
Getting your certifications.
Everything. And it's like, okay, where is that ROI going to come from? Like, Formula E's not coming here. We're not going to be having these, like, electric-only track days. That's going to pay for all this because it would take years of ROI to pay back for that.
It's not tangible for them at a finance stand.
This just goes back to the problem with EVs at this current state anyway, which is infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that at the end of the day, is it profitable to do it, and is it going to be is it going to last long enough to be profitable?
Cracker Barrel thinks it's profitable.
Honky Buck.
Wait, do they have EV chargers?
Like every Cracker Barrel.
Dude,
That's the only place you can play checkers on a straw board.
Come get your country fried steak, play checkers, and charge your EV for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
They must be able to put out
like 4
fires
hours.
at Cracker Barrel.
100%. Grease fires.
Grease fires, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so go ahead.
I'm sorry. With like the Charlotte Roval, okay, it's a NASCAR track. NASCAR hasn't gone electric yet. They haven't even they've kind of talked about doing like a hybrid car or something.
Have they really talked about it?
They haven't had enough technology yet, and the billions of dollars it would take.
ROI.
Yeah,
it's always ROI. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
and just think with NASCAR, they literally just swapped over this year to an independent rear suspension, this past race season in
center
2022.
But going off to what you were talking about, Austin, about the infrastructure. So one of the things that really shocked me was when Matt Fair was on his podcast. He's had his Mach E for a while, and he has like direct access via black box to Ford Engineering directly. Like Ford Engineering recognized
Interesting. That's
his
cool.
yeah. So Ford Engineering and Ford recognized his social media presence, and they said, okay, we're going to have this one person dedicated, this engineer dedicated to where if you have a problem, you report it OTA, like over the air, directly to him. He'll solve it, get you a solution immediately, or at least get you to a Ford dealership and have something handled. Well, he got stranded at a charger out in, I think it was like California somewhere or whatever, and he couldn't charge his vehicle while he was like trying to get to a press launch for another car.
Oh, no.
And he couldn't charge it, and so he
God.
thought it was an issue with his car, but it turns out it was an issue with the charging station. And not only could he not get the engineer to respond in a sufficient time to find out if it was his car that was the issue, you also had the issue of, okay, the charger's broken. Who's going to fix that? Who's going to fix that issue? It's like if every charging station broke at the same time, right? If every single if one charger at a charging station of 10 all around the country broke at the same time, could they all be repaired in a sufficient manner? Or are you stuck there for 6, 7, 8 hours until something happens?
I didn't even think about that. Because
Yeah.
you could be traveling and you'd be like, man, my battery's going to die here soon.
Here's
I
these
have to
3
rely
chargers.
on this charging station.
Here's these 3 chargers. 2 people are here right now. They just started, and it's going to take them an hour and a half, and this charger's down. And what is it? Like Electrify USA, I think, is one of the bigger ones. And they have awful reviews because they can't repair their chargers. And so you have a 10 charger station go down to 5, and the amount of people that own EVs in that area guarantee it's at least 20 plus, especially in areas
California losing
their
their mind.
Well, like in San Diego and Dallas, Texas, and these big metropolitan areas, you have probably 1 in every, I would say, 1,000 people own an EV. Out of a 500,000 person metropolitan areas, they have 5,000 people with EVs. Don't check my math. I'm 6, so I'm not good with math. But say you have 5,000 people in a metropolitan area, all trying to charge their EVs. Say even 10% of them are trying to charge the EVs at the same time. 500 people, and all of a sudden you don't have the infrastructure for the charging station. What are they supposed to do? It's not a plug-in hybrid, which we'll get to later, to where you just pop it in a wall outlet. You just don't have the infrastructure. It would be the same thing as if you had everybody with a gas car and not enough gas stations.
Yeah.
What I was going to bring up real quick is that basically EV cars, if everybody went to an EV car, like an electric car at all.
Oh, you don't have the support in
Like
any
right
way.
now.
No, if we all said, hey, let's just go to electric cars. Okay. Is the infrastructure going to hold it? Okay, so can the power grid hold it? Obviously
not.
Obviously, in California can't. And
It's not just California.
I know, but no state at this point could
Right.
that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in East Tennessee, and we have 4 water dams that are powering this whole area.
Hydroelectric, yeah.
Can
Yeah.
Oak Ridge make do? Just
No.
a little portion.
I don't even
of
think
Oak
I
Ridge.
don't even think Oak Ridge could.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're getting at here is it's a lack of infrastructure. It's a lack of, infrastructure on multiple different points of where are you going to charge it? Can the power grid hold it? Are they frequent enough?
If tomorrow, say all 5 of us win the lottery, you get a Rivian, you get a Tesla, you get a Rivian, you get a Lucid, and I get a Tesla, and a couple of us need to take our Teslas to go get brakes worked on, where are we going to go? To the one Tesla dealership that's shoved in the corner of the
Jiffy
mall?
Lube.
Yeah. But where are we going to get our brakes worked on? Where are we going to get everything else worked on? We can, but you getting parts is also going to be an issue. There's infrastructure issues everywhere. Like, I get it. It takes a while. It's just like cell phones, like back when they first got introduced. They were bulky. It was hard to get parts. You didn't really have the support. And over 30 plus years, they're just now getting to the point to where they're extremely efficient through failed models.
And that can be fixed. Infrastructure things can eventually be
100%
fixed.
takes time.
It takes time and money.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, are electric cars going to be efficient enough to last long enough to make it worth it?
And I think no.
And I absolutely think it's just not.
It's not, because you have to remember that a lot of these electric cars, they're using lithium-ion batteries. How much CO2 pollution are they emitting into the atmosphere and the ozone just to mine for a strip mine of lithium?
And also, there's the whole like getting rid of the batteries.
Yeah,
Even if
getting rid of
batteries
it.
change, it's
Yeah.
still got a mind for
Well,
those.
So something actually that nobody really talks about, but it's actually happening. Bonneville, Salt Flats.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that that's actually one of the biggest lithium mines on the Bonneville Salt Flats? And Bonneville Salt Flats used to be this. Now it's this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not much longer. They're actually not going to be able to run salt flats anymore to hit top speed runs anymore.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I actually have found this out through listening to other automotive podcasts. And to me, that's just another little stab at taking away motorsport.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, not a lot of people run top speed runs. You know, they don't figure out how fast their Camry can max out.
It's not like the 60s and the 50s where everybody's out there trying to hit 160, 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, now it's
300 miles per
Mach
hour.
1.
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah, can we hit 1,000 miles an hour in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this
He
tube
died.
chassis sheet metal.
Another thing.
But as much as we want to trash talk EVs, because I bet you we could sit here for an hour and a half and do that, what, in y'all's opinion, makes them worth it? Makes them worth, like we all mentioned earlier, the ROI. What makes it so y'all can convince either me or the listeners to say, you know what, this is where I want to spend $65,000, $85,000, $110,000. I want to go spend this on a Rivian instead of a Land Rover Defender, or I want to spend this on a Lucid Sapphire instead of getting like an R8.
So my key point on why I would ever vouch for EVs is inner cities are very good for that. They keep down on pollution, they keep down on noise, which their cities are always loud and polluted. So like it keeps down on those things, which is great. So if you live in an inner city such as downtown Atlanta or Los Angeles,
a very big metropolitan area.
yeah, like somewhere where like, you don't really want to walk because it's raining or something like that, but your daily commute is only like, 10 or 15 city blocks. Not that big of a deal.
I would say anywhere where it's a round trip sub 50 miles.
Yeah, or I don't know, 50 miles, maybe a little less, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even with
in
the
that,
EV.
in that Red Park range, for
Yeah.
sure.
Now, granted, you do have to be careful in certain metropolitan
Traffic.
areas with temperature.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not to go back to the cons, but like, EVs are heavily affected by temperature. But yeah, if you're in an area like Atlanta or Los Angeles or Dallas, Texas,
London,
or places like that, like it's extremely beneficial.
Yeah, and I think they are really good for that. And so I don't want EVs to go away. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I can sit here and trash talk them all day long, but it doesn't mean I want them to be just gone away because, hardcore gasoline good.
Yeah.
My burn dinosaurs.
Gasoline, make monkey brain.
Yeah.
Produce happy
burn
chemicals,
dinosaurs, go
yeah.
fast. Yeah, okay. And EVs have their place, but I don't think their place is overrunning all other forms of combustion.
And also, time, just like the cell phone versus the landline, it's that took 30, 40 years.
I was actually
I still know people with landlines.
But that's the thing is in 40 years, you're still going to have people with ICE cars, but as time goes on and technology changes and develops, you're going to have trickle down from Formula E all the way down into all these,
Absolutely.
and all these smaller companies that this trickle down effect will hit. All these smaller companies, if they can stay consistent, will become obviously bigger, have more access to more information, more testing data, and so they'll be able to grow and hopefully succeed. Like Lucid is on fire right now for a lot of different issues, and if they can manage to fix that, then they can eventually change their whole stride and become more efficient.
Make the plaid look like a bitch. That's what they did.
Well, aside from
Speed.
aside from the panel caps on a Lucid, it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
dude.
Hold on, do we need to bring Teslas in on
Yeah,
that as well?
Tesla's
Like,
not much better.
But that's but this is a perfect support of what we're kind of getting at is I think EVs are so early in development because if you're thinking about it, they haven't really been around for more than 10 years on a consistent production basis. You can go into
there you go.
Right.
you can go into development
Then you
models and all
also
this
have
other
to-
stuff.
When you say they haven't been around for more than 10 years, hybrids and plug-in hybrids have not been available for any longer than 10 years. The Prius, the Prius hybrid
Prius
has
was like
been out since
2007.
2007.
Yeah.
But you did not have a full, complete EV until probably around 2015. Maybe. Maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later.
The Insight was actually the first one to ever come out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, that car's great.
Hondas, brother.
Yes, sir.
Dude, and you can get an Insight and a manual.
Yep.
Oh, they're so, and you can have the wheel covers, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I know so many people with K-swap
I
insides.
And the best
So
part
bad.
about them is you can K-swap them.
Dude, if anybody in this world has a K-swapped Honda Insight, I will gladly be single and you can
Get
take my
it,
girl.
best A.
Oh, God.
Professional Austin always says best race car is going to be a Honda Insight because it's the least amount of drag.
It is.
I'm glad you brought that up because talking about the race cars aspect, because we hit infrastructure with electric cars. I mean, everyone, just right before we get to performance, everyone is going to need a truck. Okay, like a truck basis, a truck standard is going to have to be there. Whether it's a pickup truck, a light duty truck to go get a dryer, a semi truck, a truck has to be there.
Give me a
Hashtag
Warhog
America.
from Halo.
Hashtag
Yes,
America.
we can do that too.
Well,
but performance
looks more like a
aspect.
Puma.
Cool thing about electric cars is
You look like a
aerodynamics.
Puma.
Obviously, you don't have to have as much cooling vents coming up in the front, big mouthy BMW grills to suck in all that beautiful air.
Bucktooth grills.
Oh, speaking of the Honda Insight, the new Mercedes, I think it's the EQS, has like the lowest drag coefficient of any car ever made.
Sounds gross.
Dude,
Oh, no.
Have you seen them? They
No.
they look like the
Can we put a picture on the screen? Let's put a picture on the screen.
the
There we go.
Porsche paint to sample models. It looks like one of those. Yeah, but yeah, they're like extremely.
What do you say once again?
I think it's the EQS or the EQA, whatever. There's some Mercedes EQ something that's like super aerodynamic, but that helps with range as long as you don't go
Is that
more
about an
than,
SUV?
no, it's a sedan. As long as you don't go more than like 80 miles an hour on a consistent basis.
I didn't dive into it too much, but Randy Popes, when he ran the Tesla that he ended up crashing at Pikes Peak,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
was there an official practice time that car set?
I think there was, but I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. I do remember Randy Popes talking about how fast it was and how capable that car was.
Very capable.
He ranted and raved about it. He actually just went and bought one himself. He went and bought a Tesla.
657.2.
That's moving.
That is.
A sub 7 minutes?
Yeah, that's
that is
moving.
fucking. That is absolutely crazy.
Got him.
Put the LFA sound over my
LFA
voice.
sounds all over again.
No, put an EV sound. Just like,
The Porsche.
Jetson.
What is it? The
Jetson.
Porsche one. The
yeah.
one that Porsche used.
Yeah.
My only thing about when it comes to motorsport is think about it from perspectives or an
Audience.
audience perspective. It's like when I watch NASCAR or when I watch Formula One, or or you go to an actual event and watch racing. I like to hear that stuff too, and you like to get that smell, that race fuel, or E85 or something like that. I don't want to hear George Jetson do a $160 to the backstretch of Road Atlanta. Yeah, I can't
Or
do the
whatever
sound
the
or else
Jetson
I'd
noise
do it.
is.
I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't sound appealing to me. Like when I
Sounds
want
like you're blowing
motorsport,
bubbles. or
yeah,
something.
like I want the whole experience.
Quick shout out to Napoleon Motorsports. Back in 2019, and Forrest and I saw this at Formula Drift. They had their EV swapped Camaro. It was their EL1. But
Oh,
dude, watching that thing compete was so awkward. You should put a clip in. It is so awkward. It's so quiet. Dude,
really
everyone's
is.
everyone's just like sitting there, and it's literally like crickets. And all you hear is just tire squeal. And
Yep.
speaking on the performance aspect, dude, it's weird.
Yes, very.
Because you're
weird.
expecting more. You're like, this thing isn't doing what it should do, and it sounds weird.
I mean, when
That's-
you're watching
that's
Formula
not
Drift
supposed
and
to
you're
sound
hearing
like that.
an RB with 1,200 horsepower,
Just banging off
yeah,
the
just
road.
banging, or like a Von Gittens, V8 Mustang just banging rev limiter, or a rotary 20B with 1,000 horsepower. You get those sound that you literally get goosebumps on on yourself. You're like, this is so cool.
Also, props to EVs. They will require, obviously, less engine and battery maintenance than an ICE
Of course.
engine. That was one of my pros for the EVs. It's like, you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about your oil changes and yada, yada, as often. Granted, over about a 10-year span, you're going to end up paying about the cost of an engine for a battery. Obviously, as technology grows, it's going to be different. But
The weight distribution is really cool.
if you
Because
put
you
it in the
have
right
all
spot.
the weight
If you
for a
put it in
lower
the right
center.
spot.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But the battery life of EVs is worth. It makes the cars almost worthless. I mean, look at Priuses. I mean, you could buy used Priuses that need a battery for $2,000.
Yeah.
But the battery's 9.
But the
Yeah,
battery's
battery's
not.
That's also hybrid, though. That's
But
a
if you-
little different.
But you get my point, though.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But
And
that's what
the
I'm saying.
batteries are very, very expensive, and they're not even just expensive on like just consumer base. It's expensive for people to make.
Are
Oh,
they
yeah.
are they dead when those batteries die? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because
yeah.
the Insight's not.
Yeah,
Insider to go
the Insider
100%.
you can take the battery, or
Yeah.
you can detach the
Yeah.
HV whatever system.
But you can run faster than them when you detach them.
Yes, yes.
There are people that run faster than Honda Insights when you take out the
Calling out all Honda Insight owners. If you have a Honda Insight, I will 100% foot race it.
Yeah.
If anyone out there has a Honda Insight, I will foot race your
Yep.
Honda Insight.
Honda Insight, Honda Fit. Which one's going to win?
Ooh,
Win what, a drag race?
Yeah.
With
Oh, the Fit all
Yeah.
day.
Fit'll win.
Yeah.
One for the Fits.
Which one would I rather have? The Insight.
First generation manual?
man.
Yeah, I would too.
Ooh, actually, I don't know. But
Actually, you know what I'd rather have over both of them? CRZ.
we're getting sidetracked.
Is your CRZ rigid?
Sure.
CRZs are too pointy, though. I
Yeah.
like rounded cars.
I like
I drive a
Hondas,
Miata,
all
man.
of them.
So in your time of when you were without your beautiful GR86 and they gave you a rental car.
Oh my god, I love that thing.
Yes.
Dude, a Corolla hybrid. Oh, that was super enjoyable.
Was it a hybrid?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
it
Corolla
was.
hybrid.
Yeah.
So me driving up on the Dragon, it got like 48 miles per gallon. And that was like me driving around town and then going up on the Dragon 3 days out of the
We may have mentioned some stuff that we weren't supposed to, so enjoy this beautiful LFA sound for the next 10 seconds, and we'll be back with the podcast.
Yeah.
Come on. Allegedly for insurance reasons.
I was about to say,
Allegedly.
That's all hearsay. Now you get where I was
Yes.
going with, like, no, I didn't.
if you want to find out what Couch said, subscribe to the page.
Subscribe to the Patreon.
Yeah. Sign up for our Patreon.
but no, I will say the Corolla hybrid, what made it great was, like, obviously the cost to fill it up. It was quiet when it needed to be, and it was extremely fuel efficient, and honestly, it was genuinely fun. And it had a ton of space, even for a little Corolla. And I honestly looked at buying one for a daily, and they're not super expensive. Obviously, any hybrid car compared to its gas variant is going to be a little bit more expensive because you're paying for the development costs and everything else, the R&D that goes into the car. But I loved that hybrid, like Camry hybrid, Corolla hybrid, Prius. Like, dude, they're not bad. Plus, props to the new Prius for looking decent.
It does look good.
Dude, the amount of
It looks
renders I've
good.
seen
Yeah,
online.
it's
For the
very
first time in like what?
Ever.
Yeah,
This is the
ever.
first time a Prius has ever looked good.
Ever.
I will say this. Your opinion might be slightly skewed because when you get used to driving sports cars and you get used to being really uncomfortable and not having a lot of space to put your groceries and all this stuff, and all of a sudden you have a car that gets good fuel mileage, has tons of space, it's super quiet on the road, and all of a sudden you have all this, it's like, it's kind of nice. So it could be any car. Any car is...
I've owned 27 cars, so I feel like I have a good gauge of
How many of them have been sports cars with little space?
19 of them. but even the other 8 that I've driven here and there, I will say what makes a hybrid good is its ability to be an all-around car. And I'm honestly feel like this was a good segue from EVs to hybrids. For a lot of people, what makes performance hybrids so good is what the Corolla hybrid lacked in the performance aspect, because in like the LaFerrari, the 918, the NSX, the E-Ray, the P1, I mean, those are obviously the upper echelon of hybrid cars, but it makes it so, okay, this car can do X, Y, Z, it performs extremely well, and it's not as destructive as an ICE car, and you still have all the benefits of an ICE car combined with an EV. You get, I feel like in a hybrid car, I will go to bat for hybrids. I'm not as super on Team EV, but dude, I'll go to bat for hybrids all day. Just because, I mean, in my opinion, you get the best of both worlds, aside from the weight and cost. But like the performance, the enjoyment, everything else.
So I do have 2 things. So, little tidbit, little fun facts. 1, you have to be specially trained to work on hybrids and electric cars,
Oh, yeah.
and they have little orange connectors, and they can shock the shit out of you.
Speaking from experience, I guess.
They can actually kill you.
Yes, they can kill you because you can't let go of them once you get
And
electrocuted.
now we know why Austin wasn't here last week.
Also, another fun tidbit: BMW, the
i8?
i3s.
Oh, that thing's wicked.
Oh my god.
Okay, they have a 155 wide tire. I found out today.
Oh yeah.
I will never forget seeing that
I found-
at a skid pad. The skid pad at Road Atlanta. When Sonny was drifting us around, I was like, "That's not supposed to do that." I'm surprised it didn't fly.
And then you look at, you're like, oh, most Harleys have wider tires than this car does.
Truth.
So yeah. Oh, and also the Ferrari, the SVF90. That was the first like hybrid supercar that I ever hauled for my hauling company, and I couldn't just like drive it into the trailer because it had a dead battery, and I couldn't winch it because it would like destroy the whole drivetrain.
Yeah,
so I had to
not like that.
Right, so I had to put it on the little like jack wheel dolly things and like put it on 4 of those and then put it into the trailer.
And that your stress levels during that were about what out of 10?
Honestly, no, that was better than having to fucking drive it in because that
That's
would have terrified me.
That's right.
But yeah,
That is a downside of electric and hybrids is
Yeah.
the
So-
electric motors do not like being flat-toed at all.
No.
And so if you
But-
break down and you have to put on a tow truck, it's kind of a pain.
So, like, something about EVs in that is a lot of people, so, like, on Teslas, I've seen where, like, the big, like, display screens, like your infotainment screens that are in every, like, other normal car, that, on the Teslas, that's where pretty much everything in the car is controlled from.
Yeah, you have to actually put it in jack mode if it's air suspension.
Yes.
And have you
Yes.
actually
You
seen
do.
where the screen dies?
But
No, never
if
seen
the
the screen
screen
die.
dies, I've seen people say you can't put the car into gear. You can. They literally have another selector that is not the digital selector. It's literally a manual selector.
Do you guys
And it's
remember
just a push. It's a touch sensor.
do you guys remember the BlackBerry phone that you would flip sideways for the keyboard? Everyone
Yes.
thought that
Yes.
was the cool thing. That's going to be Teslas in like 20 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think right now we're in this prototype period for a lot of these EV companies. I hate to go back to EVs because we're
Definitely.
talking about hybrids.
Definitely.
But I do want to say props to the Rivian R1T for having a pass-through underneath it. That is so cool. Do you know if you open, there's like little doors. If you're looking at the side of an R1T, and it's like right in front of the bed, kind of at the bottom of what would be a
Oh yeah, it's got the
seat
little doors for the
Dude, you can go all the way through it.
Yeah,
You can
we
lay in
checked that out
thing.
at Cars and Coffee. That is very neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
like
want to
that.
give props to that. Plus, that'll make for a good review.
So,
Hot take.
whenever one of my work, I've aligned plenty of Teslas, and when I have to do an alignment on a Tesla, to put the car into neutral, because you have to hand roll the car forward in order to do your rolling compensation, it says on the screen how to do it and everything like that. You have to put the seatbelt on, not over top of yourself. Put the seatbelt on, hold the brake, start the car. It's in park. Select it to neutral while you're still holding the brake, while the seatbelt is still plugged up behind you. Take a pocket screwdriver. It literally says this on the screen, and
Right
manually close. Manually close the door. You actually have to flip the latch to initiate that the door is closed. If you do not, the moment you let go of the brake, it will automatically throw it in parking for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see BlackBerry sideways phone.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
100%.
It will
dude.
automatically do it for you because of the fact it thinks that, oh, we don't want the car to roll away. But, I mean, obviously I know what I'm doing. So it's like, you have to hold the brake. You literally have to listen for it to go click. And the door is initiated closed. And it'll show on the big iPad in the middle that it's closed. Then you can actually leave it neutral, get out of the car, and roll it while the car is still running.
So to cap off EVs, because I feel like we've said a good bit about them. If you guys could own an EV, if the car was given to you for free, but you had to pay insurance, maintenance, everything else on the car, but if it was given to you for free and you had your pick, would you own one and what would it be? Would you? Is the first question.
No.
Really?
No,
The
honestly,
Miata
not.
inside of them is like, no.
Fair.
2.5!
What about you?
Yes, and a Rivian.
A Rivian R1S, R1T?
The T. And the reason being is because everything I would use a small truck like that for is just run around town, grab the occasional dryer, load of wood or whatever, but I wouldn't really take it out of town, and so I think it'd be perfect for
Nope, I'm
There's
just
a
going
guy
to use
that-
Daddy's diesel, baby.
There's a guy that lives in Maryville that has one and takes it up onto the Dragon. I swear he gets EV press vehicles. His license plate says Gig'em. G-I-G space E-M.
That
And
sounds
he's
like
always...
exactly like an electric car.
No, he's always in a different one, but the one car, or the one vehicle I've seen it on a lot is his Rivian R1T. The dude shreds on it.
Well-
Like, has drifted past me before,
Oh my
has
God.
had cars pull off for him that are way faster than him.
Jzilla had one at a private day,
Oh, that's
and
right.
so you're like, there's pictures of a Rivian and a Ram
I think
TRX,
that TRX, yeah.
literally battling it out on the front
T-Rex.
straight of Barber.
Yes, I remember
What
seeing
about you?
pictures about that.
I like the Rivian. I really do. But I like the new Ford Lightning.
Oh, dude, the F-150
Yeah.
Lightning, the thing Matt Farah cooked, I talk about him a lot because I listen to that podcast. He made bacon, egg, and cheeses on the base at the starting line of Pikes Peak with that.
That is cool.
And Tracy, who we were talking about earlier, who works for Haggerty, one of my friends that works for Haggerty, she got to review one. She's like, dude, it's one of the best trucks I've ever driven.
When we were at Road Atlanta, just a quick story, one came in, and it was pulling a Miata. Thought that was pretty neat. Like, it was towing an enclosed trailer
Yeah.
with a car in it.
But doesn't the range on it not that good?
No, it's like 200-ish.
Oh, I
Double
thought it
check
was
because I don't
less.
want to be an idiot.
I thought it was-
Also, back to EV's torque is crazy.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
instant
Yeah.
torque.
Yeah. Instant.
If I was to choose an EV, I would.
So you would get an EV,
Hold on. If someone would hand me one,
but you have to pay for everything.
shut
else.
up.
$230.
I would get a Lucid. I would take all of my friends to do launches in it, and then I would go trade it in and get something else. That was
If you can't trade
Yes.
it
then no.
in. Okay, fair enough.
I like not EV cars. I don't know why. It's just I've driven so many at work. Just trying them out, seeing what I like about them and
We
whatnot.
really have. When I think about it, me and Doug have drove even when we worked at Firestone.
Model 3s,
Model
Ys,
3s, Ys, S's.
S's, X's,
Yep.
all the Teslas.
All
I've
the
never,
Teslas.
obviously, never driven a Lucid. They're all kind of new. Never driven a Rivian yet. But I mean, yes, it is cool when you got a dual motor and you slam your foot to the pedal and it just, whoa, this is weird.
But like
All the way
everyone
to
talks
90.
about this with EVs. When is the party trick over? Eventually, it gets boring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? It's like, okay, we get
That's-
it. You can go fast.
Yes.
Anything over 80 miles an hour, actually, it finds out.
Well, I was listening to Jason Camise on a podcast once, and he's like, dude, I don't care how fast your microwave can cook a burger or how fast your grill can cook a burger. Eventually, I just want my burger done, and I want it to be good. Fast doesn't matter. It's like, that's pretty fair for
I'm about to say,
EVs.
if I want it fast, I go to McDonald's. But if I want quality, I'm going somewhere else.
Yep.
Right, Chili's.
I love what it shows.
So
You're good, Brad.
for me,
Focus ST.
no. what if especially if it had to be my only car, if someone handed me one for free and I had to pay for everything else, I would trust Porsche. Without a doubt.
Oh, I
Really?
completely
Oh,
forgot.
yeah, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
saying.
yeah.
Not only the Taycan, what is it, the Sport Cross Turismo, whatever, the wagon, that's like crazy fast. What?
Trading in my Rivian for the Porsche.
Completely forgot about
So
that.
you have a high performing EV that's a wagon that is extremely comfortable. I think it's based off the Panamera,
Yeah.
or it's not too far off of it. That I mean, if you're gonna trust anybody to where you can beat the hell out of a car all day, you can live with it constantly,
Those P cars, man.
dude.
The
100%.
P cars.
I would 100.
Okay.
I would trade in everything I own and have owned to get a Taycan Turbo S Cross Turismo, whatever that long Scrabble name is.
Describe.
You should put a picture of it.
Every
'cause those
P-car
things
is-
are
Here it is.
Yeah. Here.
Unpopular opinion, I think Taycans are ugly. Number 2, I did a air strut on a Panamera GTS today, and that is a $1,500 air strut
Huh?
for one.
Hey.
One.
It's a P car thing. It's okay.
Well,
You just
giving-
gloss over that.
You are. He literally says if you had to own and maintain it. That's
Dude,
amazing.
I'll pay for that. That's fine.
No, it's
That
ugly.
is cool. I
That's
like
ugly.
I'll find a way to maintain it.
I'll get a GT3RS before I get that.
I'll get a second. I'll get a second mortgage.
He's
It's
gonna
okay.
sell feet pieces. Is what he's gonna do. to maintain
I
it.
would sell feed picks for GT3RS. I wouldn't for that.
I will sell my left nut. It'd be alright.
But again, if somebody handed me an EV, I'm trading it.
Fair enough. I will take my Cross Turismo. I also like how the amount of people that get mad that the Taycan Turbo S is the highest trimmed EV, and they put turbo on it.
Yeah,
and
and
it doesn't have
yeah.
turbo or anything.
I do want to make one
I
mild
feel
side
like they
tangent.
put turbo on it just to give them that little bit of spite.
100%.
It's the 80s again. No. One little side tangent.
After this, we're done with EVs.
Yep. Taycan. It's like, yeah, great. You have this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could do $130,000 worth of options onto the car.
Like, that's almost any Porsche ever.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Like, if you get a base Cayman, I think they started probably like 69, 79, whatever. I bet you can option it all the way up to 150.
oh, easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
100%.
Likely, yeah.
But the Panameras and the
Lexus.
Taycans were both that way, where like the base model wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But you never see a base model. Everyone went through and optioned out everything to like having their names engraved on the cars and having what color lighting they want to shine out of their door and what weird interior
What
color they can have.
seatbelt do you want?
Oh, do you
I want plaid seats, plaid seatbelts, plaid. Just put the car in
Hold
black.
on. Let me send in a paint sample off my couch because that's what color I want my interior seats. Because that's something they will do.
Taycan Turbo 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. I know we were just talking about the fast thing, but to do that in a wagon, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
3. How much?
3 flat.
That's faster than
Better
my
than your SRT Force.
5.3, baby.
It's faster than my Miata. I'll take it.
Yeah, but so to cap off EVs, it's interesting the amount of us that wouldn't unwanted would. But yeah, if I were to get EV, P car all day.
P-car. Yeah, that's fair.
So let's
I like
move to the bomb of the talk show.
Nagasaki? No.
Oh.
Might have to bleep that one out. Put a hydrogen sound over
If you
that.
want to know what he said.
Join the Patreon.
So, hydrogen cars.
I'd rather take a hydrogen car than a 350.
That was automatic too.
If the mic can pick that up, some trombone 350s each just went by as you went to introduce hydrogen.
I'm glad he could present us with that. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, the timing.
He was.
The 350Z is a paid actor.
If you are said owner of 350Z, we're laughing
not
at
sorry.
you. We're laughing at you. Don't
We're not
worry.
laughing with you.
God.
So the main car I wanted to pull up, I chose the Rookie Racing Corolla that they raced in the 24-hour race. I have a little picture here. You can't see that. I'm going to put it on the screen. But what I like about it is even the CEO of Toyota, Akio Toyota, he's like, you know what? We're not jumping on this train of just all electric vehicles. It's better efficiency if we do hybrids, gas combustion, and electric power. A lot more efficient. And hydrogen. Just to prove that the small little country of Japan can provide smog-free vehicles that could help the world. And I really do appreciate that. And when he did this, he put it in a motorsport aspect. He wasn't like, we're not doing a trial with it. Motorsport. Let's put it in there, put it in a race, see how it does.
Yep.
And it finished last. Wait, what?
Speaking of Toyota, they also have the Mirai. Their hydrogen sedan,
Yes.
which is like $90,000.
So,
No.
like, a little off topic about.
Starts at 49,000.
Choo! A little
Really?
off topic.
We came a long
Japan.
way.
Time out, real quick. I just want to finish this
God.
topic. Just want to finish this off. Starts at 49,000, and after you get some of those hydrogen incentives,
right.
it actually goes down to about 20-ish thousand.
Oh, we didn't talk about that with EVs. All the green tax incentives.
Well, hydrogen and EVs both have them, yes.
Yeah, but the tax incentives for that is crazy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're Section 179, you have a business, dude. The write-offs on that would be
Oh, yeah.
insane.
Same thing with
Like
hydrogen.
an R1T, write-offs all day, dude.
Hydrogen, 4-year fuel. Like, if you buy it.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years
Even
to
fuel covered.
Yeah, fuel covered up to like 15 grand.
Whoa.
But you have 3 years to do it. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
A little off topic about Japan, but we were talking about earlier about the infrastructure for EVs and other plug-in hybrids or whatever, hydrogen included. Japan is literally the leading nation in the world for high-speed rail transport.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching a YouTube video by the Infographics Show about why the U.S. is probably 50 years behind in high-speed rail transport. It's because we don't have the infrastructure to support it. It's the same thing with the EVs and the hydrogen-powered cars. We don't have the infrastructure to support it.
Japan would adapt extremely fast, especially to the hydrogen and EV output.
We would have
Yeah.
homeless men camping on the tracks and just get blasted at 200 mile an hour.
Yeah.
But we would still have the Polar Express every holiday.
Yeah.
Pulling a sick ass drift over the ice.
But
yes.
Also, we can't talk about hydrogen without the cons of, combustion.
It going
Or of it
bang.
exploding.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're forgetting about the Pinto guys. I mean, can we really point that many fingers?
Yeah.
We talked about EV fires, so every car has their own definitely
but I mean,
downsides.
The thing about
that was a
hydrogen-
design flaw.
The thing about hydrogen is it's not as dense as gas or diesel fuel. So because it's not as dense, it requires more to run a vehicle. So you have to fuel the car with more hydrogen. So it becomes extremely, even more than an ICE engine, more than an EV battery, extremely high compression.
But
Yes.
from everything I've read, though, they're extremely safe still.
I think
I think it's one of those things where we look at nuclear reactors. Everyone thinks nuclear reactors are super unsafe because they
Nuclear.
could potentially go wrong, but They very, very rarely
With
do.
nuclear reactor, they literally just hear the word nuclear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think hydrogen
Everybody loses their mind.
But you have the danger of, like, look at the power of hydrogen and nuclear reactors. When they do go wrong, it can shut down a city for
And
decades.
I don't think it could be. I don't think it could be glossed over. I think hydrogen maybe. I don't think it's going to shut down anything for decades. But
No, but there's the risk associated, and
No,
I think
it's
with
not-
the
it's nothing
proper
to gloss
R&D,
over.
it doesn't become as big of an issue.
But
It
it's
doesn't-
just like a gas station exploding.
Yeah.
How often do you hear a gas station like truly just like, oh my god, the BP down the road just blew up.
I think the technology's
We lost Uncle Terry.
I think the technology's different.
We have the BP sign.
But the
in our
safety
front
standard
yard.
is there too, which makes you think when you have a hydrogen tank to refuel off of. And the reason this Toyota, the rookie racing Toyota, had to refuel so much is because of the size of the tank. Obviously, they're motorsport. A lot of things can go wrong in motorsport. Collisions are way easier to happen when you're racing on the track, right?
100%.
So carbon fiber tank, it's a small tank. This car had to refuel 35 times, just to put it in perspective. 35 times.
Did they give
For
a
12
range
hours.
on it?
12-hour race?
Did they give a range on it? Probably, if 35 times in a 12-hour race around
Mm-hmm.
what track? Like Fuji, probably?
Uh,
If it's a 12-hour Suzuka or Fuji, I'd imagine.
yeah, I think it was Suzuka.
Yeah, so a car kit probably hits like 7 miles to the gallon or something like that. But
it
also-
all depends on how it's being used.
Yeah.
Correct.
But doesn't the
Yeah.
Mirai get crazy good fuel economy?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's when it's used properly.
300 to 400 mile range.
Yeah, I have 400 plus for
Yes.
it, yeah.
So I do want to bring up something that I was actually doing research on. Scary enough. So there is a concept hypercar that they do apparently have plans to
The
put in.
Rimac one?
The
Rimac one?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
It's called a Aprical, however you want to pronounce it, XP1. Has 1,000 miles of range and 1,000 horsepower. 0 to 60, 2.2 seconds.
Is it on the road?
No, it's a concept. I mentioned that.
Okay.
That being said,
It's not that one. Is it?
the technology is there.
I agree.
So what we're getting at here is just not there in a realistic term for anybody to buy yet. But they did say they were planning on making it. It also had a top speed of 221 miles an hour, which is not bad for
And
hydrogen.
they're gonna make 30. They're gonna be $2 million, and they're gonna sell out on the launch.
But the point is that the technology exists. It has nothing to do with the consumer or anything. I'm just making the point that the technology exists, that it's capable to go fast and have good range.
I'm curious with because I agree with the technology in place with EVs, with hydrogen, and with hybrid. How long will it take all of them to develop? Because it seems like they're being developed simultaneously, like Toyota's doing all three. I guess 4 if you're counting ICE. If the support is going to be there from the consumer to allow for that, because they can't just keep dishing out money out of their own pockets. So you have to be able to sell it. It's just like the Mirai. The Mirai has terrible sales numbers. And so, yes, it can develop over time. Yes, all these things take time. Just like EVs are 10 years in and they're still having their flaws and their issues. So is there enough support for all three to be continuously developed? And I'm not too worried about hybrids because they've been around long enough. And I feel like they've cemented their place. And with
They've been accepted by the general public.
because especially with how many options there are, like almost any large manufacturer has a sedan, an SUV, and a crossover for a hybrid, for hybrid options. And so there's tons available. I just don't know if the support and the consumer demographic is there for EVs and hydrogen to coexist to where they can be successful on a regular basis, even in the next 20 years. I'm going to call it now.
I think it comes down to a point too, and not to get into politics, but politics will have a huge
100%.
play because they
100%.
want whatever has to
Always.
happen.
Always.
But for us in a motorsport aspect, EVs are cool.
Formula E.
Formula E, it's made a huge presence and it's came a long way. And it's
Boring
literally
as hell to
a race
watch.
car. Quiet, very quiet.
Yeah.
Very
Don't have to
boring.
turn the
But for
TV volume up
intercity
too loud.
racing, intercity racing, actually, I don't think it's a terrible idea for Formula E.
Also, he's a massive fan of NASCAR, so
Dude,
the big thing
NASCAR.
about sound is important.
Yeah,
to you.
no,
But
but
for some people,
He
it's
likes to hear that big old American V8, brother.
I will advocate that for EVs. Is a lot of people don't like motorsports because they're loud and it shuts. And that's what loudness is the number one factor why racetracks shut down. EVs fix that. As much as I hate
I
to
know.
admit that,
And I like that
hate
too.
to admit that.
Because when you look at it in this perspective, motorsport does so much for safety equipment in any car,
Yep.
all throughout the
Yep.
platform.
They're the
But then
test.
you have it general public like, oh, get the loud car out of here. We don't want a racetrack near here. But
My
But let's
bringing
build our
that-
house literally half a mile away from this racetrack.
Correct. But bringing that EV aspect, like into the city, shows that you can have clean combustion racing without any real effects of making anybody super mad other than having to take a detour to get home, and then still support the general public in a city area.
And also when you're looking at it, whether it's EV, hybrid, hydrogen, at the end of the day, you have to look at who cares more. This massive percent of the population that are not car people. They just want an A to B car that fits their needs.
Mm-hmm.
That percentage is greater than car enthusiasts.
100%.
And so that's where I'm wondering if the demographic is there for hydrogen and EV to continue to grow.
This is my personal opinion. I think me neither. I think hydrogen is the long game. I think EVs and even hybrids. I think 50 years.
I think hybrids are a long game.
I think 50 years. I think hydrogen is the long game. I think by the time we are considered old people, hydrogen cars are going to be like the new thing, the new real thing that's going to properly be. It's going to be what is today hybrids.
Could you imagine a hybrid 350Z that's straight piped?
Dude, wait, how do we forget about this? All the new IMSA cars that are hybrids, have you heard those things?
They sound
They
amazing.
start with the Death Stars, the Cadillac.
Yeah, the
Oh
Cadillac
my
Stars.
God.
So
We get to
good.
see that this weekend of recording the podcast. We really do, because we have Daytona this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, you said
Yeah.
we, like, we're
Is it
going to
this weekend?
participate. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Rolex-
Rolex-
yeah,
yes,
Rolex-
the Rolex-
Yes, I have something to watch.
Yeah.
Motorsports
Which
back,
by the time this came out, Johnny, good job on winning, and so did Gino. Gino won. Congratulations. Good job on y'all's teams. Y'all did a good job.
But also think about that. We're excited about seeing hybrid cars run.
No, yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So it's not that bad. You're talking about the performance aspect of you're like, I want my sound, I want all this. It's like, we're excited for hybrid cars. I think hybrid's going to be the thing in 50 years.
I agree with that.
I think it's established enough, and it's going to continue to take all the pros from EVs and all the R&D over the past 100+ years of ICE engines, and it's going to continue to combine them. And all the companies that have made EVs and made ICE cars, they're going to continue to develop hybrid cars. And I mean, look at the presence of hybrid cars and the span that they go to. You have the holy trinity of the LaFerrari and the 918, the P1, and then you have like the Prius. Like, look at that spectrum.
Yeah.
And you have tons of things in between.
I'm looking especially at like just solely electric, but even a little bit on EV, but mostly solely electric. I look at them the same way I look at low compression V8s in the 70s and 80s. The late 70s and early 80s.
Okay.
Where there's like, oh yeah, we're still stuck in this V8, but it has, 3-to-1 compression.
Yeah.
I think the Camaros had 7-to-1, but either way.
So
I look at, especially electric cars, the same way I look at those things. It
Right,
was just something to tide them over until we made more efficient engines.
right, but that's the point that we all agreed on earlier. Is these things are going to take 20 to 30 years to be efficient.
Yeah.
Like EVs are in the BlackBerry flip phone phase right now.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to hybrids, because we did this with EVs, the same thing is if it could. Now I'm more curious on this one. If it could be your only car, and everything was covered, like purchase price, but not insurance and maintenance. So initial cost, and if it could be your only car, would you own one? And this can be like any hybrid,
Wait,
everything from a Prius to a
hybrid,
P1.
I mean, I would definitely own one, especially for the efficiency.
Oh, yeah.
Performance and the efficiency.
Yeah.
What would you own?
I would more, for example, want the performance aspect of it, as anybody would.
So what would you own?
I'd like to give it a try. Let's try the new E-Ray.
Ooh.
2.5 seconds, 0 to
Dude, that's the
Boomers are going to
all-wheel
lose their
drive.
socks!
Yes.
Automatic hybrid Corvette.
All-wheel
All-wheel
drive.
drive.
Yeah. Anyway, would you own one? Would you own a
I
hybrid?
would.
If it had to be your only car.
I would, yes, but at some point I would get tired of it, likely.
Fair enough.
918.
I would. P-car all day.
Oh, you get the
P-car.
Panamera hybrid? So I
P-car.
thought about the Panamera hybrid, right?
Yeah.
There's only one car I would take over that. And it's just now leaving. And I know Forrest over there in the corner is going to love this a ton, is the NSX Type S.
Ooh.
What an honorable mention for a car. I know
Good
it's
call.
not it's not the NA1 and the NA2, what everyone had back then and what everyone loves. It doesn't have VTEC, yada, yada, yada. But I think that is way slept on. Because it does everything the i8 tried to do, but better.
Well, that's
And
not
more
saying
efficient.
much.
I know. Yeah, but they took what BMW tried to do with the i8, And Honda, took their development, and I feel like Honda makes a better driving car than BMW.
I think
Within the past 15 years.
I think it depends on segment. I think it depends on what
car.
car.
I agree.
Cars
But
like
if
the
you're looking
M2 Comp exist, and it's really hard to argue that.
I would rather have an S2000.
Or
But
an
I don't
M2
want to go.
Comp?
I don't want to go.
Oh, no, we're on a side
go-
tangent. We're already
I
committed.
like him today.
M2. You would rather have an S2000 over an M2 Comp.
I'm not getting distracted.
I'm distracted.
Yeah.
I'm distracted.
It's
because
like,
of maintenance costs.
I'm dying on
But
this
Forrest
hill.
knows how much I hate S2000s.
I am peaking that thing over there. Peaking it.
Also, speaking of that body line, I really want. I know we're going to talk about this in another podcast, but God, I want a Jared Corolla. Oh.
It's coming. It's coming soon.
So let's try to focus back on hydrogens.
So,
We got really
This
sidetracked.
man, everybody likes really specific notes. Okay, I know you really like it. So,
Have you seen his notes?
hydrogen Corolla,
Exactly.
Tsukuba. What do you think it runs?
Hydrogen Corolla.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they have times at Tsukuba? I'm going to go 58.7. No. Wait, sorry. I'm giving it way too much props. A 1 minute, 2 second, point 3.
Okay,
That's a
so
good number.
Final answer. 1 or 2.3.
okay,
1.5.
start with a modified GR Yaris. Okay, we're gonna put that here. 58.5. Okay, hydrogen GR Corolla, 103.
Dude, I was 0.7 seconds off?
You were really
Close.
close.
Yeah.
That's close.
God, I want a Jared Corolla.
You know what all it comes down to, right? Weight.
Wait.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that's one thing I feel like we skipped over when we were talking about all of this, is whether it's hydrogen, whether it's EV or hybrid, bro, the weight is killer.
Yes.
One of my favorite runs on the Dragon that I ever had with somebody was I just randomly was driving in from the Overlook with this. I don't think it was a Plaid. It was like a P100D. It was a model, whatever the tinier one is, Model 3, whatever that one is, or Model S, whatever it was. But we did like a full tilt run from the Overlook to the store, and
Allegedly.
oh yeah,
Allegedly. You did
A full
a
tilt
full
to the speed
tilted
limit.
35 miles an hour.
yeah. But when we got to the store, I was wanting to stop and talk to him. He said, "Hey man, I have to go cool down my car. My tires overheated." Dude, his rotors were beyond orange. It was ridiculous. But he was not far behind when I hit the state line.
Yeah.
And it was cool, but it made me think that car did great, but it also weighs 1,400 pounds more than my 8.6, and it's going to go through tires, brakes, and everything else. Granted, again, they're in the BlackBerry flip phone phase of development right now, especially motorsports.
Yeah.
You have places like Unplugged Performance, Mountain Mass Performance, and all these different Tesla aftermarket shops that are developing a lot of parts for these chassis to make them lighter and more efficient. So I think for EVs, we're just now getting into where I think they're going to hit their golden era in 5 years.
Yeah,
I think that's,
I would agree.
yeah.
I would put an EV golden era at 2030 rather than 2027. So an extra 3 years for golden
Okay.
era for EV.
That's fair. I feel like that's good.
Well, it had to be at that point because there's so many government, especially in the UK, 2025, all lots have to at least, every manufacturer there has to sell a hybrid.
Well,
Some places are already pulling that back or pushing it to 35.
yeah, I'm
That's
about to say, governments like to say, oh, we're going, especially California, we're going to be fully electric by 2030 or whatever.
Correct.
They're not going to do it.
No.
No, you
Right.
kidding me? They can't back
But
that.
it
It's
puts
just
more strain on the manufacturers to just make public decisions oh, well, here's our electric car.
Yeah, but
It's like when California
it's
says
empty
something.
promises.
Yeah, when
Hashtag
California
government life.
says something like that, their infrastructure can barely hold up to the populace they currently have. What makes them think that power grid is going to be able to hold up to that entire populace having EVs or even just plug-in hybrids?
Yeah, I mean, take everyone right now that's filling up their car with gas at this exact, next 5 seconds. Give every one of those people an EV and put them at a charging station.
Yep.
Oh, dude, we wouldn't be recording right now.
No, you would not.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think of that.
Yeah.
That's
that was the point I was making earlier. You give everyone that's filling the car up right now, even if it's 30 people in a 100-mile radius, which is definitely happening. There are definitely 30 people in a 100-mile radius getting gas. Give every one of those people an EV.
God, that's a good way to look at that. That's insane. That's a
Yeah.
ton of people.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Power grid, everything. And also, all 30 of those people, imagine they have Teslas.
Yeah.
What are they all
They have door gaps.
No, but imagine when they
All of
get
their
their cars
plastic.
worked on.
All of their plastic.
That little
miles.
Tesla dealership can't manage all that.
No.
Right.
That and like to give a frame of reference for everyone listening, this Tesla dealership is the size of like a Publix. That's what I would give.
That's
the one by
bold,
the
even.
mall.
That's bold.
I would say an Aldi's.
I have a friend who's a technician there.
Oh, okay.
Are we talking about the
I
one
would say
that's up near
Aldi's.
Westtown?
Yeah.
The one that was previously, what was that?
With Sears.
The Sears?
Sears, yeah. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like these companies, Lucid, Rivian, all these companies that are really coming into their own as EVs. They're either going to need to start making better cars and selling more because you can only sell that 0 to 60 for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Hellcats. I'm surprised the Hellcat's done it for this long.
I mean, they knew their market and they
the
sold
thing
to
with
it.
the
They
Hellcat
nailed
is
it.
our 0 to 60 is what is it, like a 4 or something, a 3
I have no
something,
clue. Probably 3 something.
whatever it is. Plug it onto the screen if you have to. But the thing that Dodge keeps doing with the Hellcat is they literally just keep upping the horsepower number, and that's the number they sell,
And they don't care.
and they
That's
do not
That's
care.
the best part. They
Yeah.
make whiny, angry noises, and people 45 to 50.
You know, in their midlife crisis.
Yeah, they're just
instead
like,
of
"Woo."
Whiny,
Yeah.
spoily noises.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
But
going back
that's
to a hydrogen standpoint.
Oh,
of this. Combust hydrogen. Turbos. You can
Okay.
still have a turbo car with hydrogen power.
okay.
Yeah.
That rookie racing Corolla is turboed. It's
What
literally
size
a
is the engine?
G16, but
Oh, it is?
hydrogen
Okay.
based because it's a 1.6 3-cylinder. But you have to, since there's no oil going through the car,
Yeah.
you have to lubricate, like the injectors have to have an external line to lubricate. Turbo has to have
There's
an
so many
external
things to
line.
break.
If you look
Yeah.
at the engine bay, it's
Mhm.
just like, it looks like Legos. It's really weird.
Oh, bet.
I feel like it's unfair to compare an EV or a hydrogen with like an ICE car because they've had 100 more years to develop.
Right.
So
Well,
Henry Ford!
you say that, but the hydrogen cars, I think the first hydrogen car was done in the 60s.
yeah, and they killed them.
Yeah, that man got murdered.
What
Yeah,
happened to
that
him? Where'd
man
he go?
was yes.
But, yes. But yeah, so like, an electric cars...
sorry, consistent development.
Yes,
is what
consistent development is fair, but I'm just saying,
development,
I mean, the ability was there is what I was getting at.
Well, yeah,
To an
they
extent.
had-
Well, electric cars, maybe not so much just because electricity wasn't quite... I mean, it was, but like, it obviously wasn't as advanced as it is now, especially computer chips and whatnot.
yeah.
Could you imagine a Tesla with Miata brakes on it? They would never stop.
You wouldn't stop.
Oh, have you seen the clips of I think it's Unplugged Performance or Mount Master Performance, whatever the guys are that hang out with the Speed Academy dudes
Yeah.
at Toronto Motorsports Park. Have you seen his brake failure videos? It's
Mhm.
terrifying. He'll do like a warm up lap and then a flyer, and he's going down the front straight, and he'll hit his brakes at like 120, just complete ABS failure.
Well,
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and he like spins and goes off like 3 laps in a row.
one of the guys that tracks with Jzilla, so he tracks with Tesla,
Mhm.
and he has like the biggest stop tech brakes you could put with those wheels. I mean, it's crammed in those wheels.
Yeah.
And, but I say, even then, he's like, yeah, I can still get brake fade sometimes.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
But-
It's weight. That's all it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I
and his
just
front and rear, he has that too. It's not just the fronts.
I think at the end of the day, I will make the statement: hydrogen's going to continue to develop on the side. I think hydrogen's going to take the place of EV. EV's going to fall to the side for hybrids. So in 40 years, you're going to have hydrogen cars that are going to be more like how the Prius is now. Like you're going to have them for a very niche group of people, and then most cars are going to be hybrid. I think that's where we're going. You're going to take the technological advancements from EV, realize that you don't have the infrastructure. Everything's going to go plug-in hybrid, and granted, the cost of plugs are, their own mess to deal with. But when I had that Corolla hybrid, dude, if the battery died, just switched over to the gas engine. It was that easy. So I feel like in 20, 30 years, you're going to have everything's going to be hybrid. ICE cars are going to be like horses. You're still going to have people that have them, but it's going to be a very small demographic, and they're going to go to track days and other stuff. They're still going to be out and about, but you're going to have hybrid as the mainstream. ICE is a very, very small group of enthusiasts, and then hydrogen is going to be what EV is now.
I do want to make some honorable mentions because I feel like we're really glossing over hydrogen to an extent because I feel like all we did was talk about EVs this whole entire time
And hybrids.
Hey,
and hybrids. But I do want to say a few things. So
Okay.
hydrogen, I think, has very high potential to be the future. The biggest downside, even worse than EVs, is the infrastructure. Right now, there is only 53 hydrogen stations in the U.S., and pretty much all of them are in California.
Yeah, imagine road tripping.
But you
To
mentioned that.
California.
But you mentioned that the sales are shit. That's why. The sales are in the tank because there's no stations, and so you can't sell a car you can't.
This all circles back to ROI.
Yes, but what I'm getting at here is I think there's potential to. I don't want to sit here and beat the dead horse on ROI or anything because we've beat that dead horse, but
A lot.
But I think there is potential there. I really, really do. Okay. And Toyota does too, obviously. So not only are they doing the motorsports thing, they've actually teamed up with Kawasaki to build a motorcycle that's hydrogen. And they did.
Cool.
So,
by the way, I'm not anti-hydrogen.
No.
You're talking right at me like I'm anti-hydrogen.
Well, no. Anyway, so I mean, it's built out of an H2 engine on the 1000cc chassis. Like, it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh my god.
They're actually, but also mentioned, they are building an electric bike as well.
How do they
out of the 400 platform?
How does Toyota what happens if you buy like a Mirai in Tennessee? Like, what happens?
Yeah, what do you do?
What
if you go into a Toyota and say, I want a Mirai?
You open up the glove box. Good luck.
There's
a note on there.
You get 76 miles to the gallon in the city for like a few days.
Yeah, and then you have to travel 200 miles.
You gotta fly your car to California.
Yeah, that's...
Side note, I do think it's hilarious that the new Call of Duty has Hummer EVs on it.
I mean, marketing schemes, man.
Yes,
marketing schemes.
That's it. I just think it's hilarious.
100% marketing.
Yeah.
Also, props to that thing for existing.
Yeah.
I just think that's crazy.
Crab walking its way around.
Yeah.
Crab walking.
I remember seeing the Hummer EVs and the lyrics up at the Dragon on like some random
I remember
Wednesday.
that,
Yeah.
And dude, those things are menacing. They also barely fit in a lane.
Yeah, they're
Not the lyrics, but the Hummer EVs. Dude, they were huge.
just like the old Hummers. Just like the old Hummers.
Just like an H1.
Yeah.
He didn't have a steer. The rear just did everything for him.
Dude, it's crazy. But yeah, I think hybrids are the more immediate future. I'm not going to speak on long term or short term, but I think hybrids are the way to go.
For some reason, it is really, really hard to find prices of hydrogen right now. Like you can just Google, hey, how much this gas is at this gas station.
Yeah.
Hydrogen's not that way, at least not that I found. Now,
No.
granted, I didn't spend 30 minutes. I didn't spend more than
about.
30 minutes looking for it, but what I could found was the latest was September of 2022. Hydrogen was $8.50 a kilogram.
What does that convert to?
I don't know.
Someone do math.
Some you could do your own math.
We'll plug it in there.
Anyway, but yeah, so which from my understanding was actually pretty expensive because that's not far off from a gallon.
Okay, so and again, it comes down to
it was comparable to a gallon, is what
right. And I think EVs and hydrogen both come down to just they're newer, and so it's going to be expensive. It's
the infrastructure is what it comes down to.
It's just like every bit of technology ever, TV, cell phones, whatever you want to call it. It takes time. Give it 20 years. If it has the backing, if the demographics there and supports it, that's going to be the biggest thing, especially for hydrogen and EVs. And we've kind of seen it with EVs. If the demographic supports it, the infrastructure will be there.
And I think the public's starting to kind of warm up to the hydrogen. Obviously, you're going to have the scare tactics of hydrogen's going to explode.
Yeah.
Just like nuclear reactors are bad because they can explode. But I think there's high potential, and obviously a lot of these companies do too. Volkswagen, who 4 years ago or whatever it was, however long ago, made a public statement that they will never pursue hydrogen because it's so inefficient.
Yep.
Volkswagen is in development of a hydrogen car that they claim has a 1,200 mile range.
Also, the dude that made that statement has since been resigned.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Also, the new guy, speaking of EVs, whoever owns an ID4, if you're even thinking about buying one, I want to hear your opinions on why the hell that makes sense to you. That got voted like worst car of the year last year.
Same thing with people who buy
The
ID4.
It's like an Atlas.
Oh, okay.
Or like a Tiguan.
Okay, got
But
it.
like, if you're parked on a hill, and like the car is tilted like down to your right.
Oh, it won't start, right?
No, you can't get out. The door won't open because it senses that like it's up against something or something like that. But there's a big old spiel on why it's the worst car of the. They also have I think they don't have rear window switches or something. Like the lack of haptics is awful.
It's just like, this is it.
Yeah.
Here's what you get.
I paid this amount of money and I get this.
Yeah, it's like
It's like
every time I see them.
It's like any like late 80s Chevrolet product. Like here's just a car. If it has problems, deal with it.
We put a 305 in
Talking
your
to
Chevy
you,
Camaro.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential, and obviously a lot of these companies do too. Which I think that says something. if there wasn't potential, why would they be investing so much money into it?
People invest money into the solar powered cars.
I like the
Those don't
Good.
exist.
I bet it's good in theory,
The
but so
poten-
is hydrogen.
the potential that Akio Toyota sees, especially when it comes to his economy standpoint, is with everything just being pushed away. Like if it was hydrogen, push it away, all pursue electric vehicles. He said 1 million jobs would be lost in Japan because of that.
Yeah.
What if they denied hydrogen? If they didn't pursue production of it?
If they denied hydrogen and just went straight electric.
Denied hydrogen.
Because then you lose your combustion engineers, your
Yep.
combustion
So you
mechanics.
said 1 million jobs, right?
1 million
Yeah.
jobs.
So that's a company that has the infrastructure to pursue hydrogen.
Mhm.
I think there's only a very small handful of companies, and I'll end my hydrogen talk with this: it's up to them to mess it up or make it right.
Right.
And if those 3 or 4 companies mess it up, then it'll fail 100%.
I mean, yeah, but same thing with EVs and hybrids 5 years ago, or even now. I mean,
Right.
EVs, if there's only a handful of companies. If they fail, they're going to go away.
Right, but they didn't, and now it's been picked up by 9+ companies, and you have independent company. That's the big thing. I think when something becomes successful, you have independent companies that are solely based off that. That's why I think EVs are currently successful, even though they're struggling with infrastructure. I think the fact that Lucid, Rivian, and these other companies exist, they are independently EV. I think when we have independently hydrogen companies that are consistently successful, then I'll see hydrogen being the future in 10+
But
years.
that's why I think hydrogen is going to be the future, just long game. I don't think it's going to be. I think it'll be when we're considered old.
I'll put a $100 bet in 10 years, hydrogen won't be. There will be less than 10 companies making hydrogen cars. 5 years.
How about this? $100 bet. Do you think hydrogen's going to grow or shrink in the next 5 years, or 5 to 10 years?
Grow in the next 5, shrink in the next 10. It's gonna go.
All right, we'll say 10. I think it'll grow in the next 10. $100 bet. 10 years. Someone fact check this.
Jeez.
In 10 years.
Yeah, I think they'll be gone in 10 years.
I like the.
In terms of not existing, but you know what I mean.
I think it'll grow drastically in the next 10 years.
Let us know what you think.
It would be cool if you could go out and just kind of wrap up the podcast too to get near the end. If you could go out and then still have the efficiency as propane, but with
And
hydrogen.
propane accessories?
Have your own hydrogen tanks. Yes, please.
Beat me to it.
Hydrogen
What?
tanks. Go to your store. Be able to pick up, get a refuel.
Go see Hank
The same
at
thing
the
as
local.
just gas appliances that are in your home. There's a need for gas appliances still
About
today.
85 too.
And yeah,
Yep. There's also the corn fed stuff too. I mean, it's all alternate fuel.
Thanks, Koenigsegg.
Hey.
Thank
Yeah. I mean,
and one more thing to cover on my hydrogen spill is the Hyundai Envision 74 concept, which I'm sure plenty of you have seen. It looks like a crazy looking Volkswagen Scirocco.
Yeah, that's
Korean
or like
thing,
a squished old S4 Quattro.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, a little spec on this, hydrogen powered, 671 horsepower, 664 pound-feet of torque.
How many of them exist on the road?
None on the road, it's a concept.
But
But
This is why I don't like hydrogen. It's great in theory.
driving
Well, so
range
is
of
EVs.
373 miles with a top speed of
Yeah, but they
155 miles
exist.
per hour.
Sorry to overgloss. They exist though. They're on the road consistently.
But they weren't just a few years ago. You have to look long game. That's what I'm getting at. If
I'll-
I
I'll
could have
look-
said the same thing to you.
I'm gonna
They're good in
scoot
theory.
back. We're gonna let them fight.
I know, they're
Yeah.
getting
They,
wild.
they were good in theory 5 or 10 years ago, weren't they?
Yeah,
but
I
now
still
they
like
are
them
good.
now.
Now they're good because they are good.
We can't-
Hydrogen is good in theory now, and it can be good later. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but we can't predict. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we couldn't predict
Hydrogen-
EVs either.
Hydrogen was in
Yeah,
the
no,
water.
that's what I'm
You
saying.
have to gamble.
Yeah, no, I don't think hydrogen is worth the gamble. That's just
That's
my opinion.
and that is a
Yeah.
that is a fair opinion.
Yeah, I think
And
I
I
think
think-
hydrogen cars are gonna have the same, not the same,
Oh,
minorly
you're
better presence than like solar powered or water cars.
I
or
expected
whatever.
Austin to be like, and that is your opinion, albeit a wrong opinion, so I'm going to like
I-
to ignore it.
No, look. At the end of the day, I'm just proud of him for thinking for himself, and not me telling him his opinion. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no. So on a serious note, I really do think. I think that you have a fair reason to think that because hydrogens have not proved themselves. Let's be honest, and so there is a good reason to have doubts. And just like I mentioned earlier, hydrogens have their doubts: high cost of fuel, lack of
Cost of
infrastructure.
development.
and development. Exactly. But how do you get that? You get that by putting time, money, and just research into it constantly, just like people did with EVs.
It's just like aerodynamics when it came to gasoline cars. Over time, the solution really came to just stop building a brick and build something a little slender.
Stop building
The first time-
freaking Jeep.
Stop building Fairmont wagons,
Yeah,
even though
the
they're
first-
cool.
The first time people started putting wedge shapes on cars, everyone thought that was stupid. And they're like, oh, that just looks dumb, and you're going to lose the race. And sure enough, it started actually winning. Same thing with a spoiler.
So
First
I
time
think-
someone put a spoiler on their car, they're like, oh, that's just dumb, and it's just...
And then they
you're
put
just
the
adding
cone
weight.
shaped on the front and the spoiler on the back, and you're like, yeah.
I think we can all agree on this. What you see in high-end motorsport always trickles down to the general public.
Yes.
So when we see it in general motorsport on a consistent basis,
Well,
You'll see it
how
in the
long-
public.
How long has F1...
probably in the next 5 to 10 years.
How long has
110%.
F1 been hybrid? How long has F1 been hybrid?
Yeah.
How long?
I don't know.
They've been
I
hybrid
haven't- I'm
before.
not
Probably like
F1
5 plus
watcher.
years.
Yeah. Probably at least 5 or
But
6
see, it
years
trickles
that
down
they've
into
been
the
hybrid.
public. So I think I'll curve my opinion on hydrogen
He's
whenever.
turning a leaf. Nissan
Fuck
leaf.
no. Not even. No. I will curve my opinion to agree with you when I see it in a consistent basis in motorsports, because that's always where the first amount of technology goes, because they can afford the mistake of R&D.
He's peeking onto the next page a little bit of that leaf, just kind of picking it up like...
I'm glad
So
you
when
picked
I
up
see
the
it
leaf.
I'm
there,
excited for my $100 in 10 years.
that's fine.
I really am.
I'll eat $100 if I see it in motorsports in the next 5. I'll eat $100.
Okay.
See it consistently in motorsports. That means all the same vehicles running it. So it's 10 plus vehicles running hydrogen for a whole year.
So
I'll
let's-
eat $100.
Alright, so we need to get a hold of James right now.
James,
James.
hook us up.
The professional
Sir.
racing organization, 10 plus cars all year. Put that in real. I'll eat $100.
MCOR hydrogen. Here we go.
I'll eat $100.
NASCAR still be running V8.
I'm just surprised they went away from 5 lugs finally.
Yeah, me too, honestly.
I'll tell you one thing right
It's
before
a
we
quick
close out.
transition.
Right before we close out is after everything that came from a technology standpoint of it, and really, you're looking at the environment standpoint of it too, what it's doing to the environment, but also okay, let's look at all these cars that were built in the 90s and early 2000s that are just everywhere in junkyards. What is electric vehicles going to look like in the future? Is it going to be something that, you go out and like, hey, you can't go in this junkyard.
Right.
This could be a hazard,
It's a
like a
biohazard
severe hazard
Yeah.
compared to just getting cut or falling off a car.
They'll probably have to remove that stuff before they put it in the junkyard.
Yes.
That's the only thing.
Yeah,
they'll
where are you
have to
going to put
remove.
all of it? That's-
And what happens if one catches on fire in a
Oh,
junkyard?
the cruise ship. The cruise ship. The thing that had all the Porsches
Oh,
on it
yeah.
and the Lambos.
Oh!
Yeah.
That thing that the Felicity Ace that caught on fire in the middle of the ocean. And Matt
Yes.
Farah lost his Porsche and all these other people lost their Porsches. Because
The freaking cargo container ship.
do you know why it caught on fire? Because an ID4 blew up.
Yep.
And that concludes the podcast.
ID4.
Oh, yeah.
But because of a lithium battery fire, there's a ship in the middle of the ocean that is completely sunk with millions of dollars of cars on it. Because of a
Hundreds.
stupid EV.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Dollars. Whoa.
Easily 100 million. Easily hundreds of millions.
Easily hundreds of millions of dollars just sitting, chilling at the bottom of the ocean.
And the last time, I think it was the Performante or the Aventador, was on that ship, and Lamborghini had to restart production because the last of what they had promised their customers were on that ship, and it's now at the bottom of the ocean.
Yep. And they had to restart production.
So you want to talk about EVs and battery fires and all
What's
that?
the insurance
There you
policy
go.
look at that?
That's
They couldn't insure it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Porsche couldn't pay it. Lamborghini couldn't pay it. They couldn't insure that amount. They had to restart production for every single
Well, I'm
one
just
of
saying,
those
like, what about
cars.
the ship that was carrying it? Could they do anything
No.
with it?
No.
No.
All right,
Oh, so it's just
sorry.
piss it away.
Those-
I feel like that's a perfect way to end the podcast.
I like that.
There's a
because
cargo ship in the middle of the ocean because of a stupid EV lithium battery
just like
fire.
throwing a battery in the ocean,
Think about
we
how all
threw
the
an
happy
ID4 in
eels.
the ocean.
Think about all the happy eels. Now that there's a ton of batteries in the ocean, all your AutoZone isn't
Welcome
getting your
to
batteries.
the-
All the happy eels.
Welcome to the next movie trailer for Titanic 2.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. That's going to conclude our podcast. What do you guys think about hybrids? What do you think about EVs? What do you think about hydrogen power? Do you think it's going to be something we can see in the future? Something that's just going to be a complete waste of time? We should just hit Alaska and just go straight for the oil reserves.
Let's do it.
But guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in on Spotify. And as always, keep hitting the pass. We'll see you next time.
His name is Wade too.